Okay, so I'm gonna do a story time video. It is a beautiful rainy day. I'm outside on my screen-in porch here, and I made the mistake of giving away my deck set, which were my chairs here. So I'm sitting on the weight bench, as you can see in the background. I had a really good friend I work with, Orette. He just moved into a new house, him and his family, and needed a deck set, so gave him mine. Plus, I usually prefer sitting on the bistro set, which is off the deck. Just a simple little set. I don't need like a big entertaining set. I don't entertain that often, so. Anyway, it's a beautiful, beautiful day. Because I like the rain. Of course it sucks. The weather sucks when it's raining, but it really is beautiful. The rain can be really romantic. It's calming. You know, it's a perfect day for a movie. And after this, that might be what I do. Just watch a movie. But I figured I would revisit a tobacco, which I used to love. And I'm just trying out right now, after it's been aging for a while. It's been cellared, as they say. And it has changed a little bit. So, I'll tell you all about that in just a second. Let me just relight this. And then we'll get to a story time video. So I have my Cavalier style pipe. This is a Medico. It's a little basket pipe. This accepts the filters, although I don't use it with this pipe, but this is a cheapo $15, $20 pipe. It's beautiful. I love the style. It's simple. I really prefer bent pipes, but as far as straight pipe goes, this is my favorite one that I have. And the tobacco behind me is jackknife plug. I've reviewed this tobacco before. It's a plug cut, so it's one piece that's kind of like layered. Looks like a little brownie. Of course, if you ate this, you'd throw up. It smells good. It smells sweet. There's good aged Virginias in this. This is one of my favorite tobaccos, and after it's been aging for a few months, it's come together even nicer. It's nice. It has a very mellow flavor. It's mostly just sweet Virginias, but you pick up a little bit of an aromatic sense to it, although it's not an aromatic tobacco at all. Even being cellared, it's still moist enough to smoke, where it's not wet, but it's not dried out completely either. It's nice. It's slightly sweet, but it's not overly sweet. Some of the toppings that they'll have on some of the aromatics are a little bit too much. They're overly sweet, and they almost taste like chemicals. But this is not a tobacco review. This is a story time video. So, let me get on with the story. Today I'm talking about cars and being a teenager and driving around, driving recklessly. So I have some stories to tell. So, it's one main story I had on my mind. I was sitting out here and just hanging with Gus. You can't see him, but he's over there just chilling. Maybe I'll show him later. Just hanging out. He likes the rain too. About, I don't know, I was probably 17, just got my license. My friends just got their licenses. Of course, you know, some guys got cool race cars, you know, muscle cars, and then other people just got their mom's leftover station wagon. That's just how that happens. My first car was a 1990 Pontiac Grand Prix, and I loved that car. It was awesome. It had massive doors that must have weighed 300 pounds each. I remember one time I got into it when I first owned it, and I reached in the car to get something, and the door shut behind me, and it whacked my ankle. I thought I broke my leg. It was insanely painful. But anyway, I had a friend, Dave, and I'll leave last names out because I'm sure some people who I grew up with still watch, you know, YouTube videos and stuff. But anyway, there's this kid, Dave, and Dave was kind of a cool kid. He was cool. He was back then there wasn't no such thing as emo. I guess if anything it was just kind of goth or dark kids. You know, wore all black all the time, black fingernails, piercings. He had a piercing through the nose like a bull. But he looked just like Marilyn Manson, and he was very much into Marilyn Manson too. It was like his idol for a long time. And Dave had a very cool Camaro. I don't remember what year it was, but all black, gold pinstriping on it. It was all souped up. It was really fast, really loud. It was really cool. And I remember hanging out with Dave a few times, and Dave drove pretty recklessly. Like a lot of 17-year-olds, he'd jump in his cool muscle car and he'd floor it, you know, and peel out in parking lots and kind of do the jerk-off moves that you see a lot of kids do. And some of it's, you know, it's fun, it's not a big deal. Some of it's reckless and it endangers other people on the road. Of course, when you're 17, you're not thinking about other people, you're just thinking about yourself and how cool you are. So I remember one time I went with Dave, and I was in the back seat of this car, which I was a big boy. I was still pushing, I don't know, 330 pounds back then, sitting in the back seat of this car. It was definitely a tight squeeze. But anyway, I was sitting in the back seat, and my friend Jesse was up front. And I remember we were going down a dirt road, going to one of our other friends' house, Chris, and he was flying. I mean, flying. He was probably doing 70 on a little country dirt road. And he's fishtailing all over the place, and he's having a great time. And I'm just nervous in the back seat, just thinking, oh my God, we're going to crash. Now, of course, being 17 years old, and Dave's the cool kid, you don't want to say anything. There's a lot of things, a lot of situations we're in when we're teenagers, particularly boys. And you have such a fear of not being cool. You have such a fear of people looking down on you or saying you're wimpy or like, you know, what's your deal? What's your problem? We're just having fun, you know? And I remember just being like nervous, like, you know, Dave wasn't a great driver. He sucked. He's gotten to fender benders. He's gotten to accidents. He's screwed around before. And he wasn't, you know, a race car driver. You know, he didn't quite handle the car as good as you may think he would. But he was driving recklessly. And I remember really being nervous. This is the first time I was in a car with someone and I really thought like, holy crap, you know, we're going to get into an accident. He's being way too reckless. And at the time, you know, I mean, we all smoked pot, but for the most part, we didn't smoke if we were driving. Not to say we were responsible potheads, but in a sense we were. We didn't do anything if we were getting stoned. So he wasn't under the influence of anything at the time, but he was being an idiot. And he was driving way too fast and being extremely reckless. And I remember being in the back seat and thinking, you know what, I'm going to say something. You know, I'm sick and tired of you know, worrying about being uncool. I put my foot down and I told Dave, I said, look, stop, let me out. I'm going to walk to Chris's house. I said, I'm not going to deal with this, you know, driving like this. It's too dangerous. And of course, I got the whole run around, exactly what you think. Oh, what are you, a pussy? Come on. You know, the whole deal. And of course, I felt like crap. And I didn't feel cool, but I got out of the car. And, you know, in the moment I thought, you know, what did I just do? Now I'm an idiot. Now people are going to make fun of me. But that same day, Chris got into an accident in that very car. Now, no one got seriously hurt. It was kind of a fender bender, but the back seat was kind of jacked up. He fishtailed off the side of the road. You know, being a dirt road, there's not a whole lot of grip to begin with. And it was idiotic for him to drive so fast, but he ended up fishtailing a little bit, and his driver's side rear wheel hit a rock, and it blew the tire out, okay? And then the car kind of spun around a little bit, and then it hit a tree, and the tree hit the back seat. So the question is, if I was still with them, would I have been injured? Did I make the right choice? I don't know. Something told me to get out of the car. I wasn't comfortable with it. This is something I normally would have just been like, whatever. Because you're a teenager, you're not always thinking logically, you're not always thinking about safety, you're just thinking about being cool, having fun, having a good time. And you don't want to be judged by your friends. But of course, the moral of the story here is it was good that I got out. And the other moral of the story is don't be afraid to speak up. You know, if you're 16, 17 watching this, or 19 or whatever, you know, if you're with friends and they do crap that you don't like sometimes, don't be afraid to stand up. You know, if they're gonna you know, ostracize you, and they're gonna, you know, make you feel like you're not part of the group, then maybe you shouldn't be part of the group. You don't always have to be cool. And in this instance, I'm glad I spoke up. Who knows? Maybe I would have been really injured. Now, the kid Chris's house we're going to, there were two brothers. There were Chris and Jurgen. And that's a very specific name, so if he happens to be watching this video, I'm sure he knows I'm talking about him. But yes, Chris and Jurgen. And Jurgen was always the smarter, but he was the older brother. Somewhat nerdy-ish. Chris was definitely a cooler kid than his brother. But Chris was reckless. He just was off the wall. He did all kinds of crap all the time. And he was no different. He drove very recklessly all the time. And, you know, of course, we fooled around all the time. There was a road, actually, anyone who still lives in North Jersey, Clinton Road. I used to go down there all the time with them, and of course there's a lot of stories about it, and if you ever read Weird New Jersey, I'm sure I talked about that before, but he got into a big accident back in the woods over there. He was doing some four-wheeling and stuff, and I never really trusted his driving either. But there was another case where I was in the car with Chris, and of course I wasn't comfortable with what he was doing, so at that point I got out as well. This was after the incident with Dave. Now, nothing happened that day when I got out, but about a month later, Chris got into a head-on collision with someone around a corner. There was a bar in our town, the Rock something, I forget the name of it, but there was a bad blind corner over there, and it was a very foggy morning, and of course he was cutting the corner, going way too fast. He wouldn't have made the turn if he was driving on the proper side of the road, and he got into a head-on collision with some couple. The couple was fine, but Chris broke his leg, like I think in 3 or 4 different spots, and the girl who was in the car with him died. And not only did the girl die, but Chris's family sued the parents of that girl.